morning. Thanks for coming out. We'll call this Championship Tuesday. So have all the champions here. But the time is now 6 p.m., May 20th, 2025. Call to order this regular scheduled meeting of the Oconee County Council. Let's begin with a moment of silence. Mr. Root, would you pray for us?
Yes, sir. Pray with me if you'd like to. Dearest Father, thank you for this day that you have made. I hope we have rejoiced and have been glad in it as a gift from you, and that we're appreciative, and that we're glad in this opportunity and thankful for the moments that we get to share together, to do work, to celebrate championships and victories and all that life has to offer. I hope we do it well. I hope this meeting goes well by your guidance, by your wisdom, and by your love. May this be your meeting. In your name I pray. Amen.
Representative and Coach Adam Duncan, would you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right now we have County Attorney comments. Mr. David Root.
I have none, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Root. County Administrator comments, Ms. Amanda Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the public, welcome. Hi to all the high school girls and to the West Note Boys. This is fantastic to have so many youth in our audience. Please come back, not just when you're being recognized, but when you want to be a part of the government that represents you and serves you. Thank you, Mr. Durham.
Thank you, Ms. Brock. Now we have consent agenda. We have a motion to approve consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Second. All in favor? Now we'll begin. We have two special proclamations. I'm going to read the first one here. It's Proclamation 2025-06, a proclamation honoring the Walhalla High School girls varsity basketball team on the Class 3A state championship. Whereas on Thursday, March 6, 2025, the Walhalla High School girls varsity basketball team captured the Class 3A state championship in Florence, South Carolina. And whereas this win at the state level is a first for a girls varsity basketball team from Walhalla High School and the first state title for a Walhalla High athletic team since 1952. And whereas the team had an exceptional regular season record of 27-3, going on to be undefeated 8-0 in postseason regional games. And whereas head coach Byron Winfrey and assistant coach Gary Woodard provided outstanding direction, support, and encouragement to their team while showing admirable sportsmanship and dedication. And whereas through countless hours of practice with commitment and perseverance, the team and coaches will surely never forget that their hard work and commitment led them to win the Class 3A state championship. And whereas the Walhalla girls varsity basketball team, Coach Winfrey and Coach Woodard, represented themselves, their families, their school, and the community proudly. Now, therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, wish to acknowledge and congratulate the Walhalla High School girls varsity basketball team, Coach Winfrey and Coach Woodard, on the Class 3A state championship. Have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
You're always showing my team for the last minute then. Oh, Ashley, can I stand
I don't
here?
want you to let me in the back. Let me in the back.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Did great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are we supposed to do this?
One, 2, 3. Stay champs. Say it.
Champs.
Win.
Amen. Proud of y'all.
Next, I'll let Mr. James lead us in the next proclamation.
Alright. This is Proclamation 2025-07, a proclamation honoring the West Oak High School wrestling team on their Class 3A state championship. Whereas on Sunday, February 8th, 2025, the West Oak High School wrestling team captured the 3A state championship held at Greer High School in Columbia, South Carolina. And whereas this victory marks a historic milestone as the team's 4th consecutive state title and the 9th state championship in the program's history, solidifying its reputation as a powerhouse in South Carolina high school wrestling. And whereas over the course of 8 days, West Oak's victory rounded out a postseason sweep of the remainder of the top 5 teams in Class 3A to complete their remarkable 4-peat. And whereas this accomplishment reflects the dedication, hard work, and leadership of head coach Derek Strobel and assistant coaches Representative Adam Duncan, Ian James, Al Billings, Rick McLaughlin, and Matt Williams, as well as the support of Principal Dr. Brandon Blackwell and the entire West Oak High School community. And whereas the West Oak wrestling team has brought great pride and recognition to Oconee County, serving as a shining example of sportsmanship, perseverance, and excellence in athletics. Now, therefore, we, the Oconee Council, wish to acknowledge and congratulate the West Oak High School wrestling team and coaches on their Class 3A state championship.
Second. All in favor?
Good job.
See that ring?
Congratulations, guys, for that. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
Mr. James, step forward, please. All right, everybody show some love. More love. Perfect. Say, stay champs.
Stay champs.
Ooh, there you go. Awesome.
Make it look real good. I like that. Well, I love it. Y'all did a good job. I like good. Y'all can win it again. What we need.
We'll continue now with public comment session. Just a reminder, you have 5 minutes for public comment. I'll keep a timer on my phone. As you approach 4 minutes, I'll hold up a yellow warning sign. You'll have 1 minute left. We'll hold up a red stop sign. I ask that you please keep comments related to county business. With that said,
Mr. Lee Hill.
Good evening. Well, I didn't realize that this was going to end up my last comments starting an article in the Journal, but it did, and I'm thankful for that. That article came out, and I'm sure most of y'all, some of y'all in here have seen it. There was 37 comments on the article from people in the community. A couple of them kind of got off in the weeds on some stuff, but there was over a 90% approval rating for us holding these party houses to task. And whatever's in place, let's enforce it. Now, there was a couple of comments like, let kids be kids, and it's the country. And I wanted to kind of address that. Yes, these are kids, and they should have a college experience over in Pickens County on their campus. I moved out of Pickens County, and I found my dream property, and I moved out there, and I own a business over in Clemson, and I have a dependency on the university. I've got nothing but love for that university. I graduated, got an MBA from there, but I did not buy my forever home right there, beautiful lakefront piece of property, and think that I was going to have this kind of stuff going on. And I've got a 13-year-old son, and every Sunday when we come back from church, we got to drive by this property at this party house, and there's about 15 kids out there playing beer pong. And I guess that's the world we live in today, but I don't want to have to explain to my kids what Animal House the movie is. And I don't have to, because it's sitting right there on my property line. And as to some of one of the comments about it's the country and we don't want any more ordinances, the comment was made last meeting that if we enforce the ordinances that we have, this should take care of itself. And so you all know, I'm very neighborly. My neighbor has a firing range, and I have never been, and do I really want that there? Yeah, it's disruptive, but they do it during the day. They're respectful of their neighbors, and, it's part of living in the country. I get it. I don't have an issue with it. We all get along because they're our neighbors, okay? These kids are not our neighbors. They're renting these houses, and they're putting one resident or two at most in the houses, and then they're bringing out hundreds of kids, none of them from Oconee County, to have these parties. There's a difference there. Now, through that article, I've met Mr. Morris, and he's going to come up here and talk to you here in a few minutes about his experiences out off Shiloh Road. And he could take way more than 5 minutes, but this issue, which is new to me and some of my neighbors, has been going on since 2003. And it's only getting worse because what's happened at the Delta Chi House, the other fraternities are seeing it, and they're moving out here. And that's why I said there's now known 5 fraternities. What I don't understand is why the Delta Chi House on the tax map has a commercial designation, and these party houses are still designated as residential houses. I don't understand that. That's something that I think you all should look into and address. The last thing I think I want to say is that you all made some comments about, let's track these fraternities so we at least know they're here. And I think that's excellent. Great idea. But there's another issue here too. There's Uber and Lyft operators coming over from Pickens County, not residents of Oconee County, coming into our county and operating businesses. Now, I've looked that up, and there are counties and municipalities that require these drivers to have business license. I think that you all should require them to have a business license. That's all I got. Thank you all.
thank you.
Mr. Morris.
Good evening. I'm Darrell Morris. I live on 255 D Morris Way, right off of Shallow Road. This is the stack of complaints that I've registered regarding noise complaints. If you look at these complaints, you will see that there is a lot in what the deputies responded with. My only issue is that not everybody or not every deputy knows the rules. So they come out and they tell me, well, I can't do anything until 10 o'clock. Okay, does that make sense if I pull up a big speaker in front of your house and blast my music until 10 o'clock? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. Does it make sense for me to have to call them out more than once? These are the same people that once you give them a warning, it should be a ticket next time. It shouldn't be a warning week in and week out. That's the only way you're gonna stop this mess. I've been putting up with this since 2005. I'm retired military, I'm retired Social Security, I'm retired federal government. Where I live on 255 D Morris Way is my dream home. I don't want outsiders coming in and dictating whether or not I can enjoy my retirement. That's something that we need to take a look at. If you guys will know what happens when they have a party, there was one incident where they parked all along Shallow Road. Cars couldn't even, whether they wanted to come to the party or just passing through, couldn't get through. It was about 8 policemen, law enforcement. They would not allow them to leave unless they was breathalyzed, which I give them credit for, because you know there's a lot of teenage drinking going on. You know it is. They would not allow them to leave. So what they did, they went past my house thinking they can go back to Clemson University through the woods. Can't do it unless you can walk on water. Can't do it. Because in between my house and Clemson is Lake Harville. They come out of the woods half dressed. Girls in high heel shoes holding, can we get to Clemson University through this? No, ma'am. It's only one way in and one way out. Well, what are we supposed to do? You better go talk to the deputies in the highway patrol, because both of them, they were dispatched to control that mess. So that's that. Again, this is my proof. If you look at it, you'll understand what I have been suffering through. Okay? You got anything to say? Okay, all right. Okay, but thank you guys for giving me a chance to just vent on my frustrations. Okay? Thank you so much.
Haley Smith.
Hi, my name is Dr. Haley Smith. I am Mr. Morris's daughter. I had left Seneca, South Carolina 7 years ago to complete my master's and doctoral degree in clinical mental health counseling. After having my first baby, decided that I wanted to be back close to home, be back with my family. And I now own the property next to my father on 225 D Morris Way, including about 5 miles up, which is directly across from the Fraternity House of Delta Chi on 205, D Morris Way. I know that there's been a lot about the noise ordinances that's been discussed. One thing I want to bring up is the parking issue, which my dad mentioned as well. We live on a one-way road, one way in, one way out. In this past summer, August of 2024, I'm coming home from church, having lunch with my family as we do every Sunday. And I am 3 months pregnant with this little guy right here. And I also have a 7-month-old in the back seat as well. and we could not get to our home in the middle of August. We asked one of the guys if they could find the owner of the vehicle. They could not locate the owner of the vehicle. It took about 30 minutes before the vehicle was finally moved, before we were able to get into our home. They gave the suggestion to try to squeeze through, but I told them if I squeeze through and I accidentally hit one of y'all's cars, I'm at fault. And so because of that, we waited about 30 minutes. Somebody finally came out and moved the vehicle. I called Death Valley Towing the next day to ask what options were available, and they said that they do not tow to private properties. They only tow to commercial properties. And so as we kind of look at this issue, that is something else that I would like to address as well, is what options are available for removing vehicles that are not only impeding progress for us to get into our homes, but also if an emergency were to happen, which has happened before on our property, how is an emergency vehicle supposed to get through if there are cars that's blocking the lane? So that's just something else that I would also like to add as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Joseph Tinsley?
Good evening. Ms. Brock earlier talked about government representing and serving, and I just ask you to listen to me in that spirit. I live in Long Creek, and it's a nice part of the world up there. I'm against proposed changes to the criteria for the grant from the Oconee County Conservation Bank. And I wanted to put a face to a recipient of a grant. My wife and I received money from the Oconee County Conservation Bank. And we did that because we put a conservation easement on our property, about 100 acres, a little over 100 acres up in Long Creek. We did that for a couple of reasons, and one is simply because we wanted to. We wanted to give a gift to our neighbors. We wanted to give a gift to this county and the members of the community, and the other is because it's our right. And I know some people don't think that this should happen. Maybe some on this board don't think this should happen, or on this council. And that's okay, because people have different ideas. I do understand that. But the spirit that we did it in was to try to give a gift to our community. We've lived here and we've worked here for decades, and we give to our community in different ways through different kinds of volunteering. But we wanted to give our community some less tangible gifts, like cleaner air, cleaner water, wildlife habitat, such as that. And these are benefits that don't stop at our property line. Our property is the very top of Fall Creek. Fall Creek is a tributary of the Chattooga. We've protected all the springs now on the top of Fall Creek. Fall Creek is going to be cleaner because of our actions. Fall Creek is a trout stream. It's publicly accessible from the National Forest. It runs into the Chattooga, of course, which is a huge economic driver for tourism in this county. So that's part of that gift. But if you really want access to the property in order to think there's a gift involved, I would like to invite you to come to our property. I would be happy to walk around with any of y'all on the property. We can walk the dog, we can play in the creek, anything you would like. Same for any of y'all. If you want to come, see me later, I'm happy to do it. But that's what we did. And those are the reasons that we did it. The problem is it's expensive to give these gifts. It's a transaction that involves a lot of lawyers and a lot of lawyer expenses, no offense. And the money that we got from the Conservation Bank helped us to defray those costs. That's what it did. It wasn't like we got rich off of it. We didn't. And it not only helps people like me who simply wanted to do it and that it's my right to do it, but it can also help farmers keep a family farm. They can put a conservation easement on it, get a little money, and help them keep that a family farm. It's hard going with Angus and cutting hay and having a few chicken houses. So this is a way to get a little more money like that. So it's not a radical idea. Our governor, Henry McMaster, is a great supporter of conservation easements. He wants something like 2 million acres of South Carolina to be preserved. He thinks conservation easements are a more cost-effective way to do it than direct purchases by the state, but he wants it preserved because he knows things like this draws tourists and draws people and makes this a better place for us all to live. And that's what we've done. And I think the program works great as is. The original intent was to help people like me and my wife and family farmers and the people that own the Happy Berry Farm, et cetera, to be able to keep their land like it is. That's the intent. So I know that there are proposed changes that would make it be something, I appreciate it, that would make it be something more like going towards green spaces and pollinator gardens and such. And those things are great, but there are other opportunities to have funding for those. You could, for example, go to the South Carolina Native Plant Society and they would help you set up a pollinator garden. So there are ways to do those things additionally. It's not an either or type situation. You gentlemen, our representatives, already have the right essentially to name the people that are on the board of the Conservation Bank. You also have the right to approve their proposals. You did approve it in our case, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that sincerely. You already have those two rights. Now to change the criteria, in my opinion, is pushing too far. You already have the right to pick the dealers in the game. You already have the right to approve every hand that's dealt. Now it seems to me like you're working to stack the deck a little bit, and I think that's a little much. Thank you.
Mr. Andy Smith?
Good evening. I'm Andy Smith, resident of Mountain Rest, and formerly chair of the Coney County Conservation Bank Board. Served there for 6 years, followed my predecessor, Shay Airy, who was one of the founders of the Conservation Bank Ordinance and Board. And he was the fella that went to, and of course I want to talk about the proposed amendment to the Conservation Bank Board Ordinance. He was the fellow that went to Duke Energy and negotiated with them on the county's behalf as a county representative and got a gift of $618,000 in 2016 for one purpose, the specific purpose of putting conservation easements or otherwise permanently protecting this land. And you know, we've strove on the bank to pull money in from other sources to help us do that. I've talked to potential donors, and one of the reasons that they didn't want to give money to the Conservation Bank was because they were afraid that what you want to do would be what would happen, that you would find a way to take that big pot of money and use it for something else. And that was the one specific purpose that it was given for, was permanent conservation protection for the future, for the unborn, for the people to be able to enjoy what we have and what's beautiful. There's going to be plenty of places to put industry, to put commercial facilities, to put subdivisions. You know, you've got the opportunity to look at the future and say, y'all should have seen what it looked like, used to look like. That's what these private folks are doing. They're protecting it for the future. When you destroy a family farm with a subdivision, you've taken away the right of future people to do anything else with it. You've robbed them of that. You've stolen that. So you guys, I mean, in proposing this, that's what you're trying to do with this money. You know, it's just too good. You want to use it for something that it was not given to be used for. You got a lot of great stuff in there. You really do. You put a lot of thought and a lot of work into it and potentially spent a fair amount of taxpayer dollars to create this language. And if you leave it in there, if you go forward, I mean, why can't you just say money that's dedicated to conservation easements, permanent conservation? Let's honor our agreement. If somebody gives us money to do conservation activities, do that. But don't take this money away, you know, just because you're politically motivated not to do this. This is an agreement you made, the county made, to use this money. You got probably $250,000 in there. You want to spend it on private wells? I mean, you go put in 10, 15 wells, money's gone. It's over. You've killed it. You know, maybe you achieved your purpose. I do love the change to section 2-404B1. That's a great change. You know, I think you should scrap everything except for that thing. That's a really smart thing that we've been trying to do for quite a while to achieve. So, you know, it's mission creep, and it's also, I mean, a little bit of, you're trying to solve another government's, thank you, sir, another government's issue. You know, you're jumping in trying to solve an issue for the city of Walhalla. And, you know, that's a little bit of mission creep as well. So there are other things in here. What's community-led mean? And also eligible recipients. Now, if you're spending money as you propose, eligible recipients might be private businesses that are managing some kind of project, you know, that are articulated in there. And also, you know, there's gonna be staff time doing that. You've gone from having one of the most efficient and effective ways to spend government money, $300 an acre that you're spending to permanently protect wonderful land in Oconee County, to some kind of boondogglish, mission creepish thing with that specific money. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ralph, and I cannot pronounce your last name.
Lanting. You have to forgive me, I'm new at this. My name's Ralph Lantain. I'm a business owner here in Oconee County. Creative Craftsman is my business. I want to take a short moment to air out a grievance I have with the C&D landfill. I want to first say that I'm thankful that we have a C&D landfill in Oconee County, and I'm thankful for the folks that work there. I've witnessed how hard they worked through the Seneca tornado, through Helene last year. My company frequently uses the landfill, although it's sporadic depending on the job. We use the landfill for a construction company since roughly 2014. It works well for us. We use a dump trailer for our remodels and other types of stuff that we do. This way we don't have to rent a dumpster month to month, so it really helps us out a lot. That being said, I think something needs to be done with the current policy where they're having contractors drive through the debris field. I've known many other contractors like myself that complain about it. We pick up nails all the time. We pick up all kinds of stuff. And when I tried to bring this to somebody's attention yesterday, they just were combative, said it's, you know, basically not their fault. They can't do anything about it. Anyways, there's probably, I would say the county itself probably needs to look into having people drive down through there, because it's probably some sort of liability, I would say. If OSHA were to get involved with all the tractors and everything that are driving around there, and then you just, at a minimum on a construction site, if you're operating equipment, you have to wear yellow. Everybody wears yellow. So if you're just having people drive down through there and getting out of the truck with the crusher driving by, it's opening you guys up to liability from a business standpoint. Not to mention, I've seen one of my employees came back and witnessed a gentleman who got a piece of rebar through his radiator on his truck. Yesterday was a little bit frustrating for me. I asked if I could dump over the wall. I've got a 14K dump trailer. It's 16 foot long. Their current rule is if you have a 12 foot long trailer, you can dump over the wall. If you have anything longer than that, you've got to go drive down through the debris field and dump your load out there and then pull back up. I asked yesterday because I only had a little bit of stuff on. My total bill was $11.46. I asked the attendant if I could back over to the wall and dump over, because it was really not much weight at all, because I understand why they have it like that. They don't want to push that wall back. It's a safety hazard. He did what he was told to do and said no. And so I just proceeded to go down to the landfill, and when you know it, I punctured my tire with 4 puncture holes, which I have photos of. Cost me about 2 or 3 hours in my day to get that taken care of, so I could go back among my day. But at the very least, I think the landfill could at least have some tire plugs and an air compressor available for us to fix our tires or so on or so forth. And I think that's pretty much all the time I need, so thank you.
That's all we have.
Okay, let's go to council member comments. Any comments? We'll talk about the conservation stuff when we get to that ordinance. Mr. Hill, Mr. Morris, Ms. Smith, they still here? So we're intending on having a meeting before this meeting, but we couldn't get a quorum. I apologize for that, and Mr. Hart's not here, so we'll work on expediting getting a special meeting together when we can be in contact with Mr. Hart. We'll make sure schedules align. Y'all brought up some more concerns, that was fresh as far as vehicles and roadways and things of that nature. Mr. Ralph?
Yeah.
We've been down this road many times. There seems to, there ought to be a better way to do it. This may be one we have people dumping out in the middle of nowhere to keep from going down in there.
Yeah, something's gotta be done about it. I mean, it's
It's a landfill, Mr. Chairman. It's very difficult when we're bringing in 45,000 tons. Other landfills do have periods of time where they close and do a clearing. We're the only C&D landfill that accepts multi-county waste. I'm not gonna throw Clemson University under the bus, but they're a primary customer right now, and the demand on the landfill, and for there not to be, and I'm not saying that you didn't have an issue, I just asked for your phone number. It's a balancing act of being able to keep the customers coming and going and being able to keep the debris clear. The landfill is permitted now to go cell 2 up, so sooner or later, people will be dumping up, not equal to. We do have a magnet sweeper. I'll call you tomorrow and talk to you about your tires. I really don't think having tires and a compressor for public use is a good idea, simply because you could blow a tire up and injure someone else. It wouldn't be just on you.
I mean, if that piece of rebar that went through somebody's radiator.
I've never heard of that, and I've never heard of that.
I mean,
I will follow up on that, but I've never heard of that. We do get a lot of complaints about tires, but I've never heard of piece of rebar through a radiator. Not saying it's not true, but I've never heard of it.
I didn't witness it myself, so.
So this is something we can take up at a later meeting, maybe.
It is, and
Public
there
health
are
and safety.
improvements to the secondary access road going into the landfill now, and making one exception, anybody else in a 14-foot trailer, regardless if you had 6 tons or 2 tons in a
Yeah,
trailer.
I agree with that.
Nobody else
You
knows
said a
that.
rule, you gotta say is
And you
12
have to,
feet is 12 feet.
because of the busyness of the landfill. If Mr. Root came in with a trailer that only had insulation in it, that insulation doesn't weigh anything, but if I bring in the same size trailer full of shingles, mine weighs 10 times as much as Mr. Root's, but from the outside, they look the same.
Can I respond to that?
Can she
That's
just
up
call
to
you?
you.
She'll call you and work it out. Any other comments?
Thank you.
Hearing none, let's, move to public hearings. We have 4. Bear with me as I read them. The first one is public hearing for ordinance 2025-01, an ordinance establishing the budget for Oconee County and provide for the levy of taxes for ordinary county purposes, for the Tri-County Technical College Special Revenue Fund, for the Emergency Services Protection Special Revenue Fund, for the Road Maintenance Special Revenue Fund, for the Victim Services Special Revenue Funds, for the State Accommodation Tax Special Revenue Fund, for the Local Accommodations Tax Special Revenue Fund, for the Community Health and Community Services Special Revenue Fund, for the Economic Development Capital Project Fund, for the Bridge and Culvert Capital Project Fund, for the Capital Vehicle Equipment Fund, for the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Capital Projects Fund, for the Fire Emergency Services Capital Vehicle and Equipment Fund, for the General One-Time Capital Fund, and for the Debt Services Fund, all in Oconee County for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
We have no speakers.
No speakers. Anybody like to speak? Hearing none, I'll close public hearing on ordinance 2025-01. Next, we have ordinance 2025-02, an ordinance to establish the budget for the school district of Oconee County and to provide for the levy of taxes for the operations of the school district of Oconee County for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
We have no speakers.
No speakers, anybody? I close public hearing on ordinance 2025-02. Next, we have ordinance 2025-03, an ordinance to provide for the levy of taxes for the Kiwi Fire Special Tax District and to establish the budget for the Kiwi Fire Special Tax District for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
We have no
Speakers, anybody like to speak? All right, close public hearing 2025-03. Public hearing for ordinance 2025-04, an ordinance to provide for the levy of taxes for the Cornish-Shiloh Special Purpose Tax District for fire protection and to establish the budget for the Cornish-Shiloh Special Purpose Tax District for fire protection for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
We have no speakers.
Speakers, would anybody like to speak? All right, close public hearing for ordinance 2025-04. Okay, now we're gonna move forward to second reading. This first one's ordinance 2025-01. This is the county's budget. I'm not gonna read it verbatim, we just read it and it's on the screen.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, I have a second. Second. I got some discussion that I would like to partake in. So we know we, as far as budgetary wise, we have, redoing, well, we're not redoing, we're canceling, we're not renewing, excuse me, the fire contract with Walhalla. I think, we all are aware, or should be aware of, tight financial restraints the city of Walhalla's in. And the most important part of that, and most affected, is its residents. I believe they're at 9 firefighters, which is 3 short of what they are for the contract. But on top of that, they're looking to possibly cut 2 firefighters. I personally believe they have other positions within the city they should cut before they cut that. I believe that they will get there, but I'd like to give them an opportunity to continue to maintain 2 firefighters for 1 year, just 1 year, one-time grant, to give them time to figure out where they need to go to make those rolling on their own behalf beyond that. So I'm going to propose, I'm going to make a motion here to direct the administrator to identify the funding, the amount of $70,000. It's going to be a match. They're going to put up $30,000 because it's $100,000 for the 2 firefighters for a one-time allocation to the city of Walhalla to provide fire and emergency response to our citizens of Walhalla, and its businesses.
So moved. Second.
Second. Yep. Is there any discussions on my motion?
Yes, Mr. Durham, I just want to make sure the city of Walhalla understands this is 1 year, 1 year only. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
Yeah, I'd like to, Mr. Chair, I'd like to say too, it's, just reiterate what Mr. Elliott said. 1 year only, because it really kind of does, you know, you've got cities like Westminster following their fire, agreement. You also need additional folks and, you know, have been doing things the right way. Their calls are through the roof. And they have a large geographical area to cover there. And, you know, we need to be making sure that, looking toward taking care of those needs in the future too. So, I'm gonna vote for it also, but it is a one-time thing.
Thank you, Mr. James. Any other comments? All in favor of that motion? Thank you all for that. Now we're back to our main motion, which is the budget ordinance. Is there any other discussion on that item?
Mr. Chairman, let me speak if I
Yes.
may. I emailed you all today after our last budget committee meeting, as we talked about products at the quarry and the the shortfalls we still have for in-county sales. The material is in the backup. We are proposing a $5 increase per ton for out-of-county sales only to 57 stone, number 3 surge, and Class A ripraps. This document will be provided in the backup. The $5 per ton is for out-of-county only. It does not impact in-county quarry rates, and this should help us maintain a better supply of the 3 largest selling products that have a tendency to vacate stockpiles pretty early in each day with out-of-county sellers.
So I make a motion that we change the rate for what Ms. Brock just said.
Second that.
Have a motion, a second to amend for the rates that Ms. Brock just recommended. We have any discussions further on that amendment? Not here now, all in favor? All right, anything else, Ms. Brock?
That'll be all, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your recognition. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the budget? Not here now, all in favor? Aye. Okay, now move forward to ordinance 2025-02. This is the ordinance for the levy of the school taxes. Previously read, it's on the screen. I'm not gonna read it again. We have a motion.
Move.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Okay. I have a statement here from Dr. Michael Thorson. He wants to give us an update. He was gonna be here, but they have an adult ed graduation ceremony tonight. He says, at its meeting, this is the board's meeting, on May 12th, the Board of Trustees of the School District of Oconee County voted to allocate $1.2 million of general fund balance to the district's capital budget. This will allow the millage levy for the capital budget to be reduced from 30 mills to 28.6 mills. In addition, the board passed the School District of Oconee County budget on second reading, acknowledging the need for deficit spending. These 2 actions were taken to address council's concern with SDOC general fund balance level. It is hoped that county council members see this as a sign of cooperation as the SDOC budget is considered for second reading. So, I watched that meeting, and they took those actions. I do appreciate that. I appreciate the cooperation that both bodies have exhibited. You know, if you look at it, best case, worst case scenario, depends on which side you look at it. They'll spend $2.5 million for their operating budget out of the fund balance. Likely to be much lower than that, because collections will probably be a little bit above expected. But I do appreciate the working together. I appreciate Dr. Thorson and the leadership and the boards, you know, for working together to make this happen. And with that, I'd like to make an amendment now, a motion to amend this ordinance to where we stated 108.6 the last meeting to state 110 mils. Second. Any discussion on that amendment?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, to be clear, that's section 2 is a tax of sufficient millage not to exceed the increase to 110.
That's correct.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
There no other discussion, all in favor of the amendment? And I'd like to clarify too, I made a incorrect statement. I misunderstood. When Mr. Strickland came up here and spoke at one of the meetings we had, he talked about how they previously never budgeted for vacancies for benefits. And I took that and I misunderstood that they didn't budget for vacancy for benefits, but they were this time. So that's a little bit extra. I met with him and he clarified, and I believe he probably stated this during, I just missed it, that they normally calculate, they was budgeting for the top of the pay scale, but not budgeting for benefits. But this year they brought budgeting from the top of the pay scale down to somewhere lower, I don't know if it's midpoint or the bottom of the scale, and then budgeted at some point for benefits. So I misunderstood that and I wanted to correct that statement. Any other discussions on school districts? Not here now, all in favor? Now we're to ordinance 2025-03. This is the ordinance for the budget for the Kiwi Fire Special Tax District. Not gonna read it again. We have a motion.
So moved.
Motion. Second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? We have ordinance 2025-04. That's the ordinance to establish the levy of taxes for the newly created Orange Shiloh Special Purpose Tax District for fire protection.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Now, this next one, I'm gonna read it because we didn't have a public hearing on it. This is ordinance 2025-11, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a real property lease agreement between the South Union Volunteer Fire Department as lessor and Oconee County, South Carolina as lessee for certain improved real property located at 111 Fire Station Road, Westminster, South Carolina, currently identified by tax map number 324-00-04-031, and other matters related thereto.
So moved.
Have a motion, Mr. Elliott? Second, Mr. James. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Next, we have first reading of the following ordinance. This is ordinance 2025-12, an ordinance amending the Oconee County Conservation Bank ordinance, OC Code Section 2-398 through 2-409. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I talked with Duke Energy in Charlotte today, and the answer is the current funds in the Conservation Bank, that are Duke Power donated funds, and also funds that might come in the near future, are for land conservation strictly. Therefore, I'll be voting no on this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Everett. So I reviewed the memorandum of understanding, and I also reviewed the relicensing agreement. Memorandum of understanding says Duke Energy agrees to provide the grant for $618,000 to grantee to support conservation initiatives approved by the OCRB board. You're not finding anywhere where it strictly lays out. It's pretty broad when it talks about initiatives, conservation initiatives. I can't find anywhere where it strictly points out it has to be easements. With the governing body, we set the parameters for the board to operate under. So this opens it up to more conservation efforts to where, that money's sat there for going on 10 years now. This opens it up to broader uses. And I don't see anywhere in the documents that says it has to be purely for easements. We don't govern off of personal intent. I mean, we go off of what we have here.
Mr. Dorville, stakeholders have agreed to that, and we have spent, I think, close to $400,000. $100,000, I think it's down to 200-something thousand now. Here again, Duke Energy Charlotte's gonna call Ms. Brock tomorrow. That's all I got to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
They're welcome to call us reading the memorandum of understanding that was agreed on in 2016.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to say, I looked at the same memorandum on there, and I didn't see, it seemed very broad to me as far as conservation. It did not specifically say easement. And I really don't understand all the things that are in there are great things for conservation efforts, where it's shoreline reclamation, all those things. I don't understand the pushback to only conservation efforts that somehow take away land rights. That seems to be the only thing that we're interested in with the way it's currently written. And so I fully support the changes because it broadens it out. And all these other conservation efforts are just as worthy as the easements are.
So I'm not taking sides either way. That's why I called Duke Energy Charlotte to get clarification. I mean, if Duke Energy wants to build recreation fields, that's fine with me. I'm just telling you what Duke Energy Charlotte told me, so they'll be calling Ms. Brock tomorrow, maybe Mr. Root, and maybe we can work out something. There's stakeholders involved in this that you guys don't understand, but,
all I could go is the documents I've read. I read the MRA, I went back and read documents, read press releases, and I couldn't find any instance where it stated it was purely for conservation easements. It was all broadly stated conservation initiative, wildlife habitats was mentioned in other documents, so. Any other?
Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, this, if we go with this amendment, it does add additional initiatives that the money can be used for, which to me is a good thing. And is it not a self-governed entity? I mean, they'll have their board, and it has to go through an approval process. It's not like they're just gonna, if some initiative comes up, they're not gonna spend the money willy-nilly. It'll have to go through an approval process. So I'm in favor of the way that the revisions are written and given more varied initiatives that can be spent on.
I'm just saying caution. I don't want the county to lose millions of dollars. You gotta be cautious. This is the first I've heard of this. Did this come out of a committee? Was it reviewed by the committee, the ordinance changes?
No.
May I speak?
No. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Let's see here, where we at? Council committee reports, is me, Finance Administration Committee. I have a cheat sheet somewhere. The Budget Finance Administration Committee was made up of all council members, met at 4:30 PM on May 6, 2025, where Ms. Brock provided an extended overview of the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget, noting this is a tight budget with no proposed tax increases. Unless a special meeting is called, this is the last regular scheduled Budget Finance and Administration Committee meeting for 2025. Board and commission appointments, we still have no representatives on file for 2 at-large seats for Building Codes and Appeal Board. No executive session items, need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?